Here we are on Ask Tom Live. I happen to be Tom, so hello everybody. A little bit different format today. We lost one of our compadres. Not really sure where he is actually, but hopefully he'll be here next week. Actually, this Sunday on the air with me. But Charlie Mosier's on a little trip, so Dany Millikin and I are taking over. Of course, I'm Tom Tynan, of course, and I'm the one who's on 610 AM on the radio for 35 years now. And as far as that goes, all I do is answer home improvement questions, not gardening questions, not car questions, but home improvement questions. And I've been doing it and helping people all these different years. 9 to 12 on Saturday, and of course on Sunday, usually 8 to 11. But the football season with the Houston Texans are still going on. So I'm preempted to 7 to 9 right now for a couple more weekends. But after the first of the year, we'll get back to our regular schedule because after the first of the year, we start home improvement season. And that goes with gardening season too. And we're going to have Dany here first, though I have to tell you, Dany Millikin, we got to put his little thing on here, is a little thing. Sorry. I didn't mean, oh, you don't get your display? I was going to tell you.
I think they'll
There
display
he
me in
is.
a little
Wait,
bit. Yeah.
there he is. 7 to 9 on Saturdays before me on Sports Radio 610. I want to make sure I get the right side there. And he's the guy that gets the whole audience going. And he's the most important person in the whole act. And I'm going to let him tell you about the great people he works with on his radio show, which is the Garden Pros. Dany, come on up and tell a little bit about what you do on that show.
Absolutely. Not unlike you, Tom. Instead of home improvement, though, we're talking kind of garden improvement. You know, outdoor, outside the house, all the plants, the lawns, the trees. And we call the show Home Show Garden Pros because that's really who we're lifting up is these professionals in the gardening world. So they're just from these most amazing spaces all over town that are garden centers. So Warren Southern Gardens, Kingwood Garden Center, Plants for All Seasons, Nature's Way Garden Center, Enchanted Forest, Enchanted Gardens, Nelson Nursery and Water Gardens. It's just a great group of talented folks.
Yes.
So there are garden pros. And every week, just like you, our big goal is advice. So answering questions, helping people with their problems.
And you do a great job, Dany. And so do all those people you work with, too. So these questions we're going to have today, Danny's going to ask me my questions. I'm going to ask Dany his questions. His is gardening. Mine's home improvement, as we just discussed. And they all come from our websites. Mine is HomeShowRadio.com. HomeShowRadio.com is a website we use that is, we don't use, we created. And it's full of all our certified home show pros when it comes to home improvements. It's also full of all the videos that we've done, thousands of them over the years, as well as our daily mail segments, which are live segments answering your questions. And that's where these questions come from. And Dany, you have questions also from your website.
That's right, HomeShowGardenPros.com. The Ask a Pro button there is you can send a question anytime. Send one picture with your first email, and then I'll respond to it, and you can get some more pictures in. And so many pictures, so many times people don't send a picture, and it really, really helps to see that problem live. If it's a bug or a disease or something like that, it's really nice to get that picture in there. So those are our websites, Home Show Garden Pros and HomeShowRadio.com. And so here we are, Ask Tom Live. Super excited to be here for a little bit of a advice tennis. So, we're doing
And you're here in the last week of every month. You
Right.
share this time with us too, just so everybody knows that. But let's go ahead and get to the questions. And Dany, I think you have to ask them because I have to answer the first ones.
That's right. I'm gonna ask Tom his questions, which will help me a lot.
Yes.
So here's the first one right here. All right, question number 1. It's from Mackenzie down in Florida. So Mackenzie says, "Hi, my house is blown in cellulose insulation. I know you do not like it, and I agree with you on your viewpoint. Our house is very dusty. We just found out we have a duct leak, and that cellulose is coming in from around our light fixtures. I'm panicking here because I feel like there is now boric acid on everything we touch and eat. Do you have any recommendations on what to do?" That's from Mackenzie.
Well, first off, I don't want you to freak out because there are millions of homes with cellulose insulation. This material, boric acid in this case, or any of the borates, it's a common name for them, are used in building materials all the time and other types of products too. But they're fire retardants. Fire retardants is a material that I think is overused in all kinds of situations, from computer casings on. And they've been doing studies in people's home about fire retardant pollution, and they haven't got anything concrete yet, but they're finding really weird air qualities in a lot of people's homes, from the sheets you have to the mattresses you buy, furniture, the insulation, all these different products. Now, when it comes to insulation, which I want to hit on here first, cellulose is ground up cardboard and newspapers. It's very organic. It deteriorates over time and becomes dusty. And in that dust is the fire retardant material that they put in there to use it as an insulation. So it's certified as an insulation product. And it does become airborne in people's homes. And so I've always told people, stay away from it. Don't use it. There's many situations where people have it pulled out of their home. If you're really concerned, the answer is this. You get an insulation company to come in, and they have vacuum trucks, and just vacuum it all out of the attic. Now, if you have a duct leak, if you have situations where you know where it's coming in, or you feel that those are problem areas, seal them up. I mean, be proactive and go ahead and fix those problems so you can eliminate this. And the other thing I'd like you to do is research a fresh air return, which keeps your house positively pressured and eliminates the air being sucked in through all the little areas like around your light fixtures and your registers and stuff from the attic, and not pulling that stuff into the home. But it's more than just that. You've got to be careful with everything you buy today, and take a look at fire retardant materials. And you can buy pillows and mattresses and stuff that don't have them. You just have to be very careful when you're buying them. But I don't want you freaking out about it. Just be proactive. And if it bothers you, take it out of there. Just to finish up this question, because we are limited with time, about 25 years ago, I brought this up when cellulose was really new. And I caught all kinds of flack from the public, from the industry itself. And I even got letters from presidents of all these companies that developed this product, and it was being pushed heavily. And what I did was I just wrote a research paper and sent it all back to them and said, this is the problem. Now, borates are used in rat poisons. They're used in other types of bug killers. And what you'll see, and Dany, you're into the bugs and stuff on the outside with the plants. They always say, oh, but it kills roaches too, like it's a real plus. But as any kind of chemical, whether it's fertilizers or whether it's carburetor cleaners, whatever you do, if you abuse it and it kills a bug, it can kill a person too. It's just a matter of the amount of stuff. Will it kill you instantly? No. Am I more concerned about pets and small children? Yeah, because they're smaller bodies and they have a purer body than us old adults that are in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. We're pretty much done for anyway. So I wouldn't worry as much about it depending on your age. But I never heard back from any of those companies, and not once did any of them even call me on it after that. It was done. I put it to bed, but it was so long ago that I don't think those guys are even around either. Maybe it got to them. I don't know. But there you go.
Do you have a preferential insulation instead of that stuff?
Yeah, and what they tried to do, I kind of say cellulose is like cigarettes. In 1945, everybody said cigarettes does not cause cancer because it hasn't been proven. Right. But everybody suspected there was an issue. Well, now that it's proven, we all know better. That's why they don't give soldiers packs of cigarettes when they go to battle anymore, or a bottle of scotch for that matter. In World War II, they did. But as far as this particular product and what you should use, they for years have been trying to beat up fiberglass as a bad product, and they could never find any of the workers, anybody that ever worked with it over decades and decades, ever have a problem. It's glass fibers, and if you wear your respirators when you're working with it, it's very stable, and when it goes into a home, what happens is it stays where you put it. It doesn't get airborne. And so it's great that way. It's naturally fire retardant because it's a glass product, and you can get it now. And I remember when it first came out, it was top secret. Johns Manville's was the first one to come out with the formaldehyde-free product. And boy, it hit the market. And that means no outgassing, no bad chemicals, just glass fibers, and it works. And that's the best thing to use in a home.
Excellent. That's great. Nice.
Yep.
Good answer there. Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about basically mulch with all these cardboards. You know, you put a bunch of mulch up in your attic. Maybe not the thing to do for decomposition.
No, don't put in the little people put the little pellets in and the little styrofoam eggs. They put all this stuff in the attic saying, oh, that's good insulation. No, it's not. It's garbage. That's why you need to get rid of it. You don't put it in your attic. But Dany, I mean, you can kind of probably relate to this because I've read studies that people that live on golf courses and all the chemicals used on the golf courses in huge amounts to keep them so beautiful, it actually creates a problem with people that live on golf courses. I know I would never live on one. And I read a story once about Lou Gehrig and all the time he played in the baseball fields and all the overabundance of chemicals they used back then on the baseball fields. They kind of traced his problem back to actually getting poisoned by all the chemicals, which I know in your show you talk about organics and you talk about using these things in a much more controlled environment.
No, absolutely. And I mean, there's stacks on stacks of data coming in now, and even government cover-ups and stuff like that have tried to kind of not keep the truth from getting out about a lot of chemicals. So it is great to just, be simple, use what's proven, and that fiberglass, as well as kind of a soil first gardening method that it's, we want to keep it simple, keep it safe. That's always the way to go there. So we also don't want any lawsuits or chasing us down, So.
Nobody will chase us down. Just it's only our opinion. Always remember
that's right. It's our opinion.
It's our opinion.
And
what's the next question?
Yeah, what's the next question?
Come on, where are you?
Okay, here we go. So this one's
wait a minute. This one's for you.
All right.
Oh, so we're going to rotate. We're just making this up as we go, by the way.
It's like a tennis. We're playing we're playing advice tennis.
I like it. All right. Dany, Lynn from Needville, Texas has 2 holes in a pecan tree. That's pecan, not pecan. There's only one thing you do with a pecan. All right. Where branches were removed many years ago. And they're able to keep one clean and it does not hold water. The second hole had ants in it, which nobody likes for some reason. And they sprayed Demon, if I have that right, on ants. And I see no activity now. So it must be pretty good. The tree is on my property in Matagorda, which is good, not on your neighbor's property. What's your advice on keeping this tree healthy, Dany?
Well, the big thing we're going to focus on is root health. And so pecans they're high users of zinc and of copper, of different metals, because they're making the shell, they're making those weird bitter flavors that kind of are in those little pieces between the nut meat itself. And so you want to make sure you're keeping minerals around those. So Nature's Way Remineralizer is a great product to kind of put around the roots under the canopy, as well as compost. So if you can put a little bit of compost down a couple times a year, just a sprinkling around that, as well as keep it mulch, you'll do a lot to help that tree kind of keep on growing, maintain health and production. Addressing those holes specifically, the one thing we don't want is we don't want rot spreading from inside the holes out to the bark, the living wood. And so ants kind of do a really good job stopping decay from happening. And so if you ever see ants in your tree and you don't want them there, kind of like you said, Tom, people seem to not like the ants for some reason, you don't have to get them out. They're actually going to do a pretty good job stopping that from stopping decomposition from happening, because the same things that decompose the wood will kind of try to decompose their eggs, and they're going to be very vicious about stopping that stuff. They have kind of a interesting spittle they make that is a antibacterial that they can stop the decomposition from happening. So if you have ants in your hole, that's not a bad thing if it's a tree hole like they're talking about there. And so that's something to maybe think about. If you are going to try to wash them away or get rid of them or poison them, you want to make sure you want to get all of the dirt that was part of their nest, part of their hive, part of their, that stuff they make, the dirty stuff they've got. You want to get it all out, because if you remove the ants but you leave the soil there, you're going to start to see decomposition happening on that wood in that hole. So Lynn, if I'm you, I'm getting my fire hose out, I'm getting my high pressure hose, and I'm rinsing out all of the soil that the ants brought up. So if you're in this situation again, don't worry about the ants. They're going to protect themselves and your tree in the same kind of motion. So hope that helps. Again, we're really focusing on getting some minerals down, Nature's Way Remineralizer, and then topping off with a little bit of compost and then some mulch to keep those trees healthy.
Oh, Dany, that brings me to the ant issue again. I don't want ants. I don't want ants in any of my holes. But and I'm glad it's zinc, because if it's a male tree, the prostate will do well. Okay. The fact of the matter, well, you'll find out when you're 63. But the fact of the matter is, I've got ants around a couple of my fruit trees on the ground. I thought about going out and putting some bait down and killing them. Should I, or should I just let it be?
I personally would not. If you start seeing aphids, then they're problematic. Until then, they're going to protect it from almost any pests that are coming in. That they will milk
Wow.
the aphids, right, for that honeydew, but every other insect, they're going to stop. If it's peaches, apples, plums, or pears,
That's
I
what it
welcome.
is.
Yeah, I welcome the ants. Because
Really? How about
yeah,
apples? Apples too?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So the
Got
apples will
apples
get a
and pears.
couple different pests that will try to crawl up the trunk and live in your fruit, and the ants will just stop them. So I have even encouraged people to move their ant piles over to plum and peach trees to stop that plum curcillo from climbing up the tree, because that'll ruin a whole crop. So that's yeah, no, I think it's a good thing when you're dealing with those palm and stone fruits. So the Texas fire ants are interesting because they have up to 9 queens. And so to think that we can pour a little bit of boiling water or gas or something on a nest and kill every single queen, it's not really possible that way. All you're doing is disturbing it and it's going away. It's going over somewhere else, maybe to your neighbor's yard, maybe your veggie bed, or maybe to a potted plant. And so if your ants are in a place that's not really bothering you, I would leave them. I would absolutely leave them in place. That's my take.
Wow, that's wild. I had no idea, so I'm not going to kill my ants. I'm keeping them there
Yeah,
because I
they're
like
they're
my trees.
protecting that. They're protecting it from almost every pest, except for
That's
aphids. If you
awesome.
see aphids, you want to rinse the ants away as well because they will protect the aphids as well, which is not as
Oh,
good.
okay.
That's
Awesome.
more of a problem with like corn, and sometimes
Well, no, no
figs.
corn.
Yeah, so there
Okay.
you go. No corn trees growing at the
No,
time. Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. That's great.
No
All
corn
right, here we.
trees here.
Yep. All right, here we go. Here's question number 2 for Tom. So this is from Barry out in Cinco Ranch. So he's just getting right. He's getting right to the facts here, Tom. Full ridge vented roof, vaulted ceilings prevent 4 sides of house from soffit venting. I know what these words mean. Have twice the recommended
Yeah.
FHA intake, but air movement is slow. Is it okay to have fresh air intake fans at the soffit venting to create a cooler air cushion? In theory, the warm air should rise and escape faster. Correct or not?
Well, it's let's go to the theory part. In
Okay.
theory, it's true physical action of the earth. So it goes beyond the theory. It actually is a fact.
Oh.
And that's what you want to do. If you do a smoke test in an attic, when I used to be the director of the environmental center at Miami-Dade Community College many years ago, when I was a very young and pretty man, we would do smoke tests in attics. And we were also worked with and in conjunction with the Florida Solar Energy Center to do this kind of testing. And you would find that the air would move very slowly in the attic, and that's what you want. You don't want it to be fast. You don't need huge amounts of volume. You can't have too much, but putting a fan in there would be a real waste of time, especially at the bottom to pull it in. What you would actually do is pull it out, and then that would increase the flow at the bottom if you had to do that. In this case, I would say no, because what happens is people go into their attics and they feel very hot, and they should. Because when you look at a smoke test done, the air is moving right up along the underside of the roof decking, maybe about a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, depending how much airflow and how the delta T is from the cool to the hot to the top. And as it's moving, all the air is slowly rising into this air movement chamber, and it's collecting all the water. And that's what you're doing is you're drying out the attic. So the attic stays dry and keeps the insulation dry, so the insulation works. So it's actually a sponge, so to speak, collecting water so all the water exhausts. So don't do anything. Don't think of it as a theory. The reality is that's how it's supposed to be. And when you go up there, and people will tell you, especially air conditioning technicians in the summer, man, you really need to put a fan up there. It's so hot. It's costing you money. No, it's not. It's just because they're uncomfortable because there's no air movement over their skin. But there's 2 different types of cooling. A structure cools slowly and vertically. A human body cools very quickly with a high air movement across the skin, and that's usually horizontally. Or if you have a ceiling fan, putting air down on your body because you're in evaporative cooling mode and your house doesn't need evaporated cooling, which means you're not trying to get rid of the moisture really fast. But as far as that goes, you got it just the way it's supposed to be. FHA rules are filled, are completed, and you've got a qualified system. So the theory is gone, and the reality is you have what you need.
There we go. Great answer there. I
Yep.
like that. What is
Yeah.
a soffit vent exactly?
Vents at the bottom underneath the overhangs. I always tell people go to the overhang where your roof is, look up. If you see a vent, whether it's a strip, whether it's little holes, whether they're grills, That's your soffit. That's the underside, and that's your soffit vents when they have vents in there. And
All
of
right.
course, the ridge vent goes across the top, and that's what he started the whole question out is he had ridge vents, which is the best way to go, especially if you're in hurricane areas such
Mm.
as Florida or Houston or everything else in between on the Gulf Coast.
All right. Sweet. So I knew both of those. That's great. They're not even plants. Look at me knowing stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Awesome.
All right, next question. What's Danny got?
All right. Here we
Uh,
go.
All right, one of my favorite, by the way, MicroLife fertilizer. I use it all the time. Probably too much and probably waste my money, but that's the way it goes.
Mm-mm.
I still like them. It's too late. Is it too late to apply MicroLife granular fertilizer to their lawn? Usually, this person, which is Craig from Pearland, would have applied the final application 4 to 5 weeks ago. And since we're in now December, you can imagine where that is. But things came up. Who knows? And also, is it too late to apply remineralizer? Is that right? To the lawn. It's been 4 years or so since the last application. His lawn is otherwise healthy and green, which is always a good sign. And didn't know if he should just wait until the spring or just stay proactive and see if they can make it go really fast now, even though it's the wrong time of year to promote growth, from what I know.
Well, great question actually there from Craig from
Yeah.
Pearland, Texas. I always want to use all of the MicroLife that I've got. It is phenomenal stuff. Really, it's soil food, right? Feeding that soil life in the food, and they turn it into plant food for you, just like nature does. So it's kind of mimicking the cycle of nature. And if you've already opened the bags, I say use them. I say put them all out, get it out of your garage. Don't let it get kind of humid or wet from our humid winters out there. Um, it's not the same sort of idea that you're pushing growth in your lawn. A lot of fertilizers, salt-based fertilizers, they push growth, right? They're trying to feed nitrogen, force nitrogen to the plant to make growth happen. And that's not what's happening with just the MicroLife, either the 624 or the brown patch. It's feeding that soil. And so you can put it down whenever you want to. I still have a green lawn, and yes, the growth has slowed down, but it calls for all the nutrients that you needed. So I would, if your bag's open, put it down and just get more in the spring. Don't try to save an open bag through the winter. It really isn't worth it. It'll start to kind of break down and pelletize, less pelletized, more powdery. There's other things you can fertilize with your lawn fertilizer for MicroLife, your veggie gardens, your fruit trees, anything that you've got growing out, all those shrubs. That's a great thing about it, is that it is really multi-purpose and can be used on anything. So I would just get rid of what you got. The remineralizer. Okay, yeah. Tom, you have a question?
No, I was going to say let's hit the remineralizer too.
Yeah.
That's what they asked about. Yeah.
No, and that is the perfect, for our clay soils, that is the perfect winterizer. So absolutely use that now, Craig. That is a great thing to put down. It is going to replenish the nutrients that were lost either from evaporation or erosion or your plant using them. And so, I would get that down. Absolutely. It will open up a soil. It'll make kind of new openings and start changing some of that turf into the turf, dead grass leaves, thatch, into humus, into soil. And so if you can kind of get that down now or even at the end of December, that is the best thing to do right now for a lawn of any product anywhere that you could possibly buy. Nature's Way Remineralizer is the thing to put on your lawn right now. So definitely use it.
Dany, when I moved my mother from Miami, Florida, Coral Gables, Florida to be exact, to here in her last years, this time of year, every year she'd say, "My lawn is dying. It's not green anymore. Everything looks terrible. The leaves are falling off the trees."
Yeah.
And I used to try to tell her in Miami, it's green, lush. You're going through the beautiful tropical jungle all year long. And I used to try to tell her that this is what happens in Houston. We have a little bit of a season, and correct me if I'm wrong. And I get calls even on my show before you started doing the show as part of our team and our family that, hey, my yard's dying. What can I do? So explain a little more right now in, a few words about, should people get real nervous about everything looking kind of bland, or is everything happening under the ground? I always assumed the roots were starting to grow and the top was not going to grow. You didn't want to promote a lot of growth, but you wanted the root systems to get strong to get through the winter and then to the hot summer when it comes. Am I wrong about that?
No. I mean, you're absolutely right. So what is happening as we have less sun throughout the year, the plants can't make enough energy to be in full growth mode. So what they start doing is they start transitioning a lot of their nutrients, a lot of their focus to root growth or even just root storage. And so it's a reason why we always have wetter soils in the winter, because water's not being pumped up to the leaves or the branches. And so your lawn specifically, it's not dead, it's just going dormant. You can kind of push it through and keep it alive a little bit with organic products like MicroLife, things that are feeding the soil, keep a little bit of activity going. That will also help you with drainage problems in winter. That's the case. So no, nothing's dying right now. It's just kind of going slowly dormant because there's no energy source, right? No carbon from the air through photosynthesis. There's not energy. So they're storing it in their roots to keep their roots alive. And root growth is happening. Plants just can't stop and freeze. They're like us. We're always kind of continually moving. Cells are growing, cells are dividing. They're just doing it all in the roots. And so if you can provide the carbon and the minerals to those roots right now, come spring, you will just have a much healthier situation. So that's why that remineralizer is great. Humic acid is a great thing to put down right now. A product that is the best way to do that is Humates Plus for MicroLife, additional MicroLife products. So no, great question there. We're not looking at death, we're looking at dormancy. So everything's just taking a little nap.
I wish she was still alive. I would have made you give her a call just because she doesn't listen to me. She goes, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. and don't touch my house. You're going to break something. Call one of the guys over here to fix it." So I had to live with that with her.
Yeah, my mom would always look at my lawn and be like, "Look at that monocrop. There's a monocrop." And I'm like, how else am I supposed to play with the kids and the dogs? Like, you want me running around on some native plants? No. So it's a similar situation.
Yes. Well, I know. This is the way it goes. All right, let's move on with the next question.
All right, this is one for Tom here. We'll see what it is. Oh, real stumper from Barry. All right. Barry asks, what brand of roof shingles would you recommend? What's the advantage of a 25-year versus 30-year warranty? Should shingles be nailed in by hand, or is a nail gun okay? What about specs on roofing paper? He has a lot of questions for you, Tom. So, what brand of roof shingles would you recommend?
I don't care. Doesn't matter.
Great.
But let me tell you why I say that. And that's my answer. 30 years ago, it mattered a lot because we had organic shingles that were really heavy because the weight mattered. The shingles, who you bought them from mattered. It was a whole different ball game. Now, I get this question a lot because people don't buy roofs every week. So everybody buys a roof about every 20, 30 to 40 years, right? Or they move into new homes. So they still think about what they had to think about when they bought their first roof 2 or 3 decades ago. And the fact of the matter is through Elk Prestique, which you can't buy anymore, we went to fiberglass mats. The whole industry changed. Now you have Owens Corning that survived. You have GAF that survived. All the shingles are good. They don't go by weight anymore, so you don't have to worry about weight. They go by the matting, so they actually lightweight is even better in some cases. And this 25 or 30-year warranty, well, it just shows that the shingle is made a little bit more hefty or made under different specs because they can give you a longer warranty and compete in that market. Now, here's what you worry about. You worry about the roofer you get. And I'm going to use Ideal Roofing, which is a certified Home Show Pro. I push all the time because they are a member of our team. They are a Master Elite GAF roofing contractor. Now, because they're associated with GAF, they're going to tell you, and this is going to answer all the other questions, they're going to tell you exactly how you are going to get your roof, what kind of flashing, what kind of paper, what kind of nailing pattern, what the shingles are, and you're also going to have GAF come and probably, depending on the warranty package you get, because you're going to be offered warranty packages that have to be put on right down to the type of ridge vent to get the warranty for you. So you want to deal with a roofer that has a long track record and is associated with a shingle to offer you that strong warranty that even if they go out of business, the shingle manufacturer, which like GAF, for instance, has been around forever. They're one of the largest manufacturers in the world for all kinds of roofing supplies. And so they're going to take over the warranty and pass it on to another one of their certified local roofers. So you're really protected and you're going to have an option. So instead of asking me how heavy, should it be hand nailed, and I can get into all the different reasons why different things are done. But what's going to happen is if you get a good roofer, they're going to tell you this is how we have to do it. This is how we're going to meet our inspections, and this is the exact warranty you're going to get. And so what you're doing is you're working with a company now. All the shingles are good. Don't worry about the different things. You'll just see the warranty packages, and you go ahead and buy in the one that you're most comfortable with. For instance, if you're buying a house, you don't want to get a lifetime warranty if you're only going to be in the house 10 years. If you're older like me, I don't care if it's a 40-year warranty because I won't be alive. Let's just face it. I just won't be alive. There's no way I even want to be alive when I'm 110. So I will not buy that type of warranty. If I was a young person with a family that was going to stay in that house for 30, 40 years, I probably would think into the future like that. So think about your situation, get a good roofer, and don't worry about brands or these little details, because if you get a good roofer and not a guy in a pickup truck that's buying the bundles over at Home Depot or Lowe's, which is fine if you're just doing repair and stuff. But when you're dealing with a roofing contractor, he's probably going to deal with a different outfit, or he might buy his shingles from them, but it's a little more professional on that side, on the contractor side. And you want a company that is going to be there and hand over that warranty to you and do it exactly how the manufacturer says.
That's great. I mean, sometimes maybe these questions aren't directly answered. It just matters who the company is that's actually going to do the install. And I love that. That's great advice there. Awesome. Well, thank you. All right. I'm ready for question 3.
Yep. We're here. Okay. This is Spring Branch. Know where that is? I'm going to dinner down at the VFW on Saturday night.
I went to Stratford High School. Absolutely.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, Nick down there, who still lives there, moved into a home last year with an orange tree, which is close to my heart. I had many, but many of us that had these trees, as Dany, I'm sure you're going to hit on, didn't do well after the freeze. But it died I love this. It died in the freeze, but wanted to get your thoughts about before he cuts it all the way down. It produced fruit last December, which all of them did. Obviously, it's not going to produce any this year because it died. So he just wanted to see if there's any chance of saving it. Now, I've always said, if it's dead, it's dead. But Dany, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you tell this gentleman what you think.
Nick, your tree's dead. And
yes.
the real thing here, if it died all the way down to the roots, even if you're seeing new growth from the roots, those are not the same as the fruiting branches that you once had. That is a rootstock. You got to get it out of there, just get as much root out as you can, and then top it off with compost so you can plant again there in spring. So simple answer. All of you guys waiting on your citrus to do anything. If they didn't do anything in April, they're not going to do anything now. Tom's right. If it's dead, it's dead. So.
And that wasn't me. I don't think you're old enough to remember a guy named John Burrow in the old radio station I worked at 30 years ago. He was the garden guy. They had a team. And he always told me, Tom, they call me up and say, hey, it's dead. What can I do to bring it back to life? And he would say, if it's dead, it's dead. He was a funny guy.
Maybe
I liked
shaman.
him a lot. Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah, we can do some of that. But I will say this. I had a bunch of those trees, and I got a bunch of those little green sprouts you're talking about later.
Right.
And I'm chopping it out with my chainsaw and doing what I can and putting mulch over it and putting dirt over it. And I planted my new trees about a foot and a half away where I could get a decent hole. And then I'm kind of building the old hole up. And so far my trees are living. But that freeze hit us fruit people really, really bad. Yeah. I will tell you this, Dany, because you helped me with my pears and apples, which were young. I thought they were goners. They were out there having the time of their life at 9 below zero. Right. They were dancing. They were having fun. And they're blooming like crazy right now as far as leaves go. So I think they're waiting for another freeze. I hear them talking to me. When's the freeze coming?
Yeah.
So it was a surprise to me with those particular trees.
Yeah, some of them are hardy, and they lose their leaves, and they're pretty safe from any freeze when that happens. So that is good stuff. Hey, I actually have a question for you about my home, Tom.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm slowly replacing all of my interior doors with kind of newer, higher quality doors. And I have noticed that sometimes where I put the hinge in, the screw does not stay in anymore. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to move the hinge on the door. What's my best bet for kind of solving this problem?
Okay, I assume you're talking about on the jamb since you're buying new doors.
Yes.
The holes in the jamb, right? So I don't want you putting in giant long screws. I hear everybody. What happens is they'll just collapse the frame in that little gap, and you're going to have a bigger mess trying to to get the whole thing to work.
Okay.
You have to take your door casings off. You'll have to put all these shims in there. Forget that. What
Okay.
you do is those jambs are probably anywhere from 3/4 of an inch on the interior doors to 1.5 inches on the exterior doors. Use a 3/8 hardwood dowel. That should be big enough. You might have to go to a 1/2 inch. You decide how big those holes are wallowed out.
Okay.
And buy a hardwood dowel about, I don't know, you get about 2-foot dowel and a drill bit if you don't have one the exact same size. And what I want you to do is just remove the hinges. You can do one set of hinge at a time, fold it back. If you
Yeah.
want to leave the door up, if you're saving an old door, that's fine too. But you drill a nice straight hole just in the jamb. You cut small little what we call plugs with those dowels, cover it with glue, put a whole bunch of that Elmer's wood glue in there. You can't use too much. Don't worry. You can wipe off the excess with a wet rag when you put it in that dowel in there. And you just tap that plug in until it's nice and flush and just let it sit overnight. Then you drill a small starter hole because it's a hardwood, put the hinge over, and then drive your screws, and it will be there another 50 years.
That's
But what
great.
you do is you're creating a wood where there isn't any. And that glue, believe it or not, people think, oh, it's just glue. And if you look at how things are made, beams are made, when we used to make custom beams on job sites, the glue joints are actually stronger than the wood itself. If you try to break the wood, if it goes under some kind of real load, the wood will snap before a glue joint will snap.
Wow.
So it's an incredibly strong a bond if it's done right. And this is going to be an incredibly strong way to do that. And just make your decision on which ones need to be done, but it's easy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes total sense, and I really do appreciate that. So
No problem.
Man,
And I
this
got
guy-
one for you.
Oh, yes. No, I said
No,
this
I got
guy,
one
he's
for
so
you.
good.
And then we're going to probably say goodbye to everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
I have an interior plant. It has leaves. It has big green leaves, and it kind of flows over, and it has these little white flowers once in a while that come out, and it's in a pot in my house. I don't live here all the time because I travel to Brownsville to work, so I have people in my house who are supposed to be taking care of my plants. This didn't happen when I was here all the time. And the leaves are turning really badly brown around the outside. Dany, what could it be? Because I've got to tell them to stop doing whatever they're doing.
Well, almost any time, inside or outside, we see tip or edge burning, it's from
Yes.
salt in the water. And so
Wow.
it might be fluoride, it might be chloramine. With like avocados, for example, will burn very quickly. But since inside plants don't get any rain at all, that sensitivity builds up and that salt builds up in the soil. So you might have better water in your house than most people, but it just builds up over time. So what you can do is you can kind of, put a bucket outside when it rains, and next time just dunk it in that water and let it dry out real thoroughly. And that'll kind of rinse away some of that salt buildup. But that's what it is. So I know you probably have a really good water filtration system, but even then, maybe it doesn't get everything.
Well, now let me ask you this. What can I do if I'm traveling? I can't wait for it to rain. So is there something I can buy on the market what would I buy?
So there is humic acid, a lot of companies make it. MicroLife is one of them that sells it in liquid form. And so basically you stir it into your tap water, you stir it into your water, and in this situation you would kind of do maybe double the label dose, let it sit for about 30 minutes, water that in. So it's going to kind of bond with what's in the water. And if you slowly water it in, it'll bond up some of this salt buildup that's in the soil. So it's kind of like chelation, but not exactly. Humic acid is a big, ready to bond molecule that connects with a lot of things. So that's what you want to do. You want to kind of soak it into your watering can, let it sit there about 30 minutes, a heavy dose, and then pour it over that soil, but go pretty slow. So, and then almost every time that you're watering for the next few months, if you can water in a little bit of humic acid, you'll solve the solution really quickly, and you'll actually see that plant heal. So, yeah, people have this problem a lot with snake plant, the mother-in-law's tongue, and it'll start kind of burning along the very edges of the blade of the plant.
Okay. Well, I know what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm giving a class to the people that work here. This is Dany's class. I'm going to be your adjunct professor, and I'm going to teach them how to use the water and the humic acid. Is that what you said?
Humic acid, yeah, that's exactly
Humic
right.
acid. And I'll go to my favorite nursery, RCW, and go get some.
Great spot.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, Tom has been super fun. I've enjoyed asking Tom myself, so that's really great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure. Charlie, we'll see. If he's watching, he probably is going, what are they doing? So, Charlie, we're doing our best. And we miss you. We'll see you here. I will see you on Sunday. Charlie Mosier usually is the Ed McMahon host of the show. And remember to listen to me on Sports Radio 610 Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, there you go. 9 to noon on Saturday, 8 to 11, most cases on Sunday. This Sunday will be 7 to 9 because we're preempted a little bit with football. And, of course, Dany, tell them all about what you're doing on Saturday morning.
Every single Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Sports Radio 16. Sports Radio 610.
No,
yeah,
yes.
just one small channel there. No, Sports Radio 610. We have Home Show Garden Pros. It's a gardening show. We love answering questions, really staying on seasonally topic. And it's me and an expert that we bring in. You can see those experts there. And that also has all of our kind of expert locations on there too. So tune in the morning. The Ask a Pro, the listen button will let you listen to the show throughout the week. Plays the last 2 episodes in a loop. So we're happy to help.
All right. That's it. Let's hear some music. We'll see you all next weekend right here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. No music? You're just going to cut us out?
I don't know why.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show Radio. Home Show